This is Dr. Andrew Jones. In this edition of Veterinary Secrets, I'm going to be discussing pet holiday health hazards, including what you can do to avoid and treat them at home.
The Christmas tree and decorations.
First, your tree, just make sure it's securely anchored. It won't be of many of the kitten or cat who has hurt themselves or dog who've decided to hang on to one of the Christmas balls and pull the tree right over. So just make sure that it's in a solid tree stand and you've got string on either side so it's well anchored, so it can't be pulled over. The second big point I want to make about the tree are the decorations that are going on it. And in particular, you making a real big point of avoiding tinsel. So of all the issues that we have during the holidays, the Christmas holidays in particular, our cats are really attracted to tinsel. And I intentionally don't have any on my tree because during my career in practice, I saw multiple cats come in who had issues relating to tinsel. So when we're talking about tinsel, what happens is that our cats, such as Gussie back here, are really attracted to this shiny metal. It's really enticing. They want to play with it, they want to check it out. And the kittens in particular, often they test it out by putting things in their mouth. So it's not that difficult for them to ingest some of that tinsel. It can be obstructed into their intestinal tract, and then you're going to be seeing signs of an intestinal obstruction. So in some cats, it's just lethargy, they're not sucking themselves. In other ones, it progresses to the point of vomiting, dehydration. And in those cases, if they've got to the point where they've got an obstruction, they're going to need to be seeing a veterinarian, potentially be having surgery. In a smaller number, we can use some type of oral laxative, such as something like Vaseline to lubricate the intestinal tract and have that tinsel pass.
Holiday lights.
So I have lights here that might be difficult for you to see, but a couple things to make them safer. First of all, I've gone and inspect them first, making sure there's no frayed wires at all, so I know that the cord is solid. Secondly, too, I've got it plugged in to a three-pronged plug that's got a ground on it, so then we're less likely to be dealing with an issue with having one of my pets chew on it and have a burn, and potentially something more serious, where in a severe electrical case, you can actually have your dog or cat go into cardiac arrest. So first of all, just inspect those cords, make sure they're safe, plug them into a three-pronged outlet, preferably with a power bar. And then lastly, if you've got a kitten that's chewing, consider not having any lights, consider that. And if there is an issue where you're concerned about your dog or cat being electrocuted from chewing, your puppy or your kitten chewing on one of those cords, first thing is they need to have an immediate veterinary exam, because one, it can damage their mouth, they can have burns on their tongues. Most of those cases they can heal symptomatically on their own. And two, in a serious case of where they've chewed on an electrical cord, they can actually go into cardiac arrest where their heart stops. So if your puppy or kitten has chewed on electrical cord, gone into cardiac arrest, immediately first, start to perform CPR, then getting them to the emergency veterinarian as soon as possible.
Don't be drinking the tree water.
The tree water, one, many people will add chemicals to the water to potentially have their tree live longer. Those chemicals are toxic to your dogs and cats, so don't add any of those chemicals to the tree water. Two, water that's sat there for a long period of time can grow bacteria. Secondary, can then be a source of stomach upset for your dog or your cat.
Chocolate in all forms can be toxic. It contains theobromine, a compound that is a cardiac stimulant and a diuretic. Some of the signs include initial excitation, increased drinking and urinating, vomiting, and diarrhea. It causes an increased heart rate and can affect the heart rhythm and arrhythmia. Seizures can be seen, and death is even possible. If this happens, in serious cases, you need to induce vomiting, give something to bind the chocolate called activated charcoal, and get to your veterinarian if there's depression and seizures begin. Baker's chocolate and the high cocoa content chocolate is most toxic. The toxic dose is 2 baking squares for a 10-pound dog. Regular chocolate bars have a little real chocolate and are seldom toxic. Raisins and grapes. As few as 6 grapes and raisins have caused acute kidney failure in some dogs. The toxic ingredient is not yet known. There is no known treatment. Just avoid feeding any grapes or raisins to your dogs. Xylitol is an artificial sweetener found in sugar-free products such as gum and candy. Clinical signs relate to a sudden drop in blood sugar, incoordination, collapse, and seizures. Avoid feeding any chocolate, gum, or candy to your pets. Keep your emergency veterinarian's number handy or call the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center at 888-426-4435. Mistletoe can be very toxic. Signs include vomiting, severe diarrhea, difficulty breathing, shock, and death within hours of ingestion. It requires induction of vomiting and supportive veterinary care. Lilies are one of the most toxic house plants for cats. Eating as little as 2 or 3 leaves or flowers can result in kidney failure. Signs include vomiting, depression, diarrhea, dehydration, and lack of appetite or anorexia. If you see any of these signs, you need to have immediate veterinary care. Eating too much of a wrong thing.
Jessie here loves treats, as most dogs do. And, especially at Christmas, I and many others have a tend to spoil our pets, giving them things they don't regularly have. Often when I work during Christmases on emergency call, it was not uncommon to have cases of pancreatitis, which is serious vomiting diarrhea, where the pancreas is inflamed. And those dogs and cats require veterinary hospitalization, being put on IV fluids, treated symptomatically till their pancreas can resolve. In the majority of cases, those are brought on by eating the wrong type of food, typically a high fatty meal, such as the chopped up leftovers of the turkey. So just be really conscious of that. Avoid giving your pets too much of anything, but especially avoiding those high fatty foods so you're not triggering a case of pancreatitis, an emergency visit to your veterinarian. If your dog or cat just has a mild stomach upset, they've eaten a bit much turkey that you don't typically give them, you can look at doing some of the home remedies that I've discussed in the past under the video on vomiting or the video on diarrhea. But in particular, I'd point you towards 1, making sure they stay adequately hydrated as far as fluid intake. 2, look at giving them something symptomatic to help decrease the inflammation in their stomach and the intestinal tract. There's a homeopathic in particular called arsenicum. I think you should all have it on hand. And a pretty standard dose is giving sort of 1 30C capsule every 1 to 2 hours throughout the day when they've had an incidence of garbage gut or vomiting and diarrhea. Thank you for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets. I hope you, your pets, and your family have a safe and hazard-free holiday Christmas.